Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the ordinary meeting of Wellington Shire Council on Tuesday the 3rd of March 2020. Members of the public gallery should note that Council records and publishes Council's meetings via YouTube to enhance the accessibility of Council meetings to the broader Wellington community. These recordings are also archived and may be published on Council's website for viewing by the public or used for publicity or information purposes. At the appropriate time during the meeting, members of the gallery may address the Council, at which time their image, comments or submissions will be recorded. Members of the public who are not in attendance at the Council meeting but who wish to communicate with the Council via the webcasting chat room should lodge their questions or comments early in the meeting to ensure that their submissions can be dealt with at the end of the meeting. Please, could gallery visitors and councillors ensure that mobile phones and other electronic devices are turned off or in silent mode for the duration of the meeting. And if you could stand for the acknowledgement and the prayer. We acknowledge the traditional custodians of this land, the Gunai people, and pay respects to their elders, past and present. Almighty God, we ask your blessing upon the Wellington Shire Council, its councillors, officers, staff and their families. We pray for your guidance in our decisions so that the true good of the Wellington Shire Council may result to the benefit of all residents and community groups. Amen. CEO, we have apologies from both Councillor Marr and Councillor Crosley.
Yes, Mayor.
Moving on to item A3, declarations of conflicts of interest. Councillor McCubbin.
Yes, indeed. Mr Mayor, I have a conflict of interest in regard to item 5.1 into the small response grants. It's due to 78B of the Act. It is a conflict of duty in that I am a treasurer of an organisation which is receiving funding.
Thanks, Councillor McCubbin. Moving on to item A4, confirmation of minutes of the previous council meeting. Councillor Bye.
Thanks, Mayor. I move that Council adopt the minutes and resolutions of the ordinary council meeting of the 18th of February 2020.
Second for that motion, Councillor Rossetti. Is that motion opposed? If not, the motion is carried. Councillor Bye. Move on. No business arising from previous meeting, CEO?
None, Mayor.
No late items?
None, Mayor.
No notices of motion?
None, Mayor.
Moving on to item A8, receiving of petitions or joint letters under item A8, part 2, response to petition Bryagalong Red Gum Review. Councillor Ripper?
Thank you. I'd like to move that Council, in response to the petition presented at the Ordinary Council meeting the 18th of February 2020, seeking funding for the Red Gum Review Bryagalong's free community newsletter. 1. Support the allocation of the 2019-20 Community Newsletter Grants Program funding to an auspice organisation to manage the funds on behalf of the individual person nominated as the newsletter editor to continue to produce the production of the Red Gum Review and write to the head petitioner advising the action to be undertaken. Second
to that motion, Councillor McCubbin. Is that motion opposed? Not, the motion is carried. Councillor Ripper.
I'd like to thank those who filled in the petition, and our staff have looked at this and are in contact, and it's just a matter of getting a group to take on board with the receipt and the paperwork dealing with the money, and everything can continue as normal. So thank you very much, and a great outcome, and thanks to the staff.
Thanks, Councillor Ripper. Moving on to item...
Would you mind...
Indeed, Councillor McCubbin.
I'd like to thank Councillor Ripper for her words in regard to that. Can I just clarify a few things? Just to make it clear that there was never any intent at all to explain that the Red Gum Review wasn't a very valuable newspaper of that particular organisation. It was just the fact that we needed an auspicing organisation to look after the funding. So I think it needs to be really clear that that in fact there was no intent of Council to impugn in any other way that this was not a good organisation. In fact, it was simply a case that we needed to, as we were dealing with public money, that we need to run through an organisation, not through an individual. And we're very pleased to say that the organisation has now been determined and that we can then provide the money. So I must admit it was a bit of a storm in a teacup, this one, and certainly one that we can clear up in the future. And maybe that's a message to all of our community newsletters. We think they're very, very important, but they do need to have an independent organisation which auspices the money.
Thanks, Councillor McCubbin.
Thank you.
I think that's useful in regard to clarification of the intent and purpose. So that's, I think that makes it quite clear. Moving on to item A9, invited addresses, presentations or acknowledgements. Councillor Bye.
Thanks, Mayor. I thought I'd just do an acknowledgement. On the 22nd and 23rd of February, I attended an event, and we've gone through 3.5 years of drought. We've gone through a fire event, and it's been catastrophic to the area. And we need a bit of a boost to the area with people coming to spend money in our local community. The annual sale basketball tournament was on, which is run by a small community committee that runs that association. What they actually achieved was 129 teams for that tournament. You think of where the hell do we fit 129 teams? We had teams from all over Melbourne, all over country Victoria come down to our little facilities here to partake in a tournament. 129 teams, that's over 1,000 players that they're coming for that weekend. They used 8 different venues across the Shire, as far as Hayfield, to involve other community facilities to make that tournament come to fruition. So I thought I'd just like to put on record a big thanks from the community, from the council for such a small committee to actually put together something like a tournament with over 1,000 players. You can imagine the hours of work and the organisation that went into that tournament. So yeah, thank you to that committee.
Councillor Boyd, could I just add to that just a small observation? On Saturday, Sunday, one of the 2 days of this weekend, I had the opportunity to go out to Maffra for the triathlon out there. And again, somewhere in excess of a couple of hundred people participated in that event. Just a dedicated group of people organised it. There was some support from council, but support from others. And again, the value that events bring to our community, and particularly post the fires, events of all sorts are going to be so significant as our communities were impacted by the fires were affected as opposed to directly impacted. And there is no doubt that the retention and organising of events is going to be so significant as we continue on from this horrific bushfire season. Thank you for bringing that matter to our attention, Councillor Blight. Great. Moving on to item A10, response to question on notice. I think that's report is there. So Councillor McCubbin asked for the CEO to give an update to the Council on the current state of the $25 million development Federation Training Campus and sale. Councillor McCubbin.
Thank you very much, Mr Mayor, and I'd like to thank the CEO for that update. Look, I think this just goes to the fact that the Council considers this to be a very important development for both the town and our broader region. I'm very pleased to see that there is some work going to be done. We certainly anticipate something happening shortly, and I look forward also, as the CEO has indicated, that we'll have a chance to talk to Grant and talk this through with him with more detail. I think we just need to let everyone know that, rest assured, the Council is very much engaged with this process of the TAFE. We consider it to be a very important development, and certainly we'll be ensuring that both TAFE and the state government are held to account in providing for our students in the future.
Thanks, Councillor McCubbin. Councillor CEO, nothing. Moving on to item B, report of delegates. Councillor Hole.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. Just to give you a quick report on the Timber Towns meeting on the 13th of February. That was our first meeting we attended for about 3 years until the Constitution was sorted out, and the modus operandi of that organisation became, from our point of view, strictly legal and take away any onus of fault or kickbacks to us. The here we go here. The things that happened, well, first off was the Oz Timber 2020, and as we know here, we're one of the major supporters. That was due to come up in March. That has now been put back or postponed until the 6th and the 10th of November, and I'm sure we'll hear more of that through our economic development people. And then this will probably be the last one held in Victoria. Next one in 4 years' time will be in Mount Gambier, and from there it'll go back to Queensland and Western Australia. So it'll be based on one 4 years ago. It'll be humongous, and the only reason back here this time was because of the great success that it was 4 years ago. One of the other issues that came up was in relation to the tyres report, and for those who are not aware of what the tyres report is, the timber industry roads evaluation survey. It's been used as a chronicle to go to government, state government, for timber impacted road funding. It has been successful on occasions. I was very delighted to go to the current treasurer some years ago and asked for 50 million, but after I've been told by the committee to request 25, and I came out with 35 million. It certainly helped timber impacted road funding in our shire as well. So it's come time now to do a re-evaluation, and so the member councils will be asked to supply information, and it'll be a joint project with the regional roads, Victoria, and also Transport. One of the issues that are becoming quite prevalent in local government is the ability of small councils to have the finances to belong to some of the groups and organisations that do the advocacy on their behalf. And one of these very small councils has, at their last meeting of Timber Towns Victoria, sent in their resignation. And it's a bit disappointing because that particular council, through Timber Towns Victoria, and because of the state of their roads, received significant funding to aid in the system. But they've got a different council there these days, with different ideas, and of course they're trying to keep their rates down and expecting everybody else to provide them with the benefits. It was resolved then through the meeting that we prepare a report on the scope, the cost and the potential partners for the next tyres upgrades, and here we're going to include Regional Road Victoria and the Department of Transport, who currently are both verbally supportive of it. One of the other issues that came out was that we write to the Premier and the Minister for Local Government, and the copy going to the Leader of the Opposition, asking that they acknowledge the timber industry and the use of all the machinery in the recent bushfires. That the timber industry did an awful lot of work and has not been acknowledged, whilst everybody else has received the pat on the back. And that's one of the reasons anybody who's been watching the television and seen the ads, that was paid by the CFMEU union, because the timber industry is part of that union, a lot of their members are, and they were very disgusted that the government didn't acknowledge the danger that those timber workers put themselves in to protect towns and infrastructure. And the TTV has also decided to release a media release acknowledging the role of the timber industry. So that's the guts that came out of the last meeting.
Thanks, Councillor Hull. Moving on to item C 2.1, Assembly of Councillors. Councillor Bye.
Thanks, Mayor. I move the Council note and receive the attached Assembly of Councillor record for the period 12th of February 2020 to the 26th of February 2020.
Seconder for that motion. Councillor Rossetti. Is that motion opposed? Not, the motion is carried. Councillor Bye. Moving on to item C 2.2, Annual Review 2017-21 Council Plan. Councillor Stevens.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I would like to move that Council, having reviewed the existing 2017-21 Council Plan as attached, Council has determined that no amendments are required.
Thanks, Councillor. Seconder for that motion. Councillor Bye. Is that motion opposed? If not, the motion is carried. Councillor Stevens.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. The review of the Council Plan is required under the Local Government Act every year, and we need to determine whether or not there is any need for any strategic review or need for change in the plan. This, of course, is the fourth year of our current Council Plan, and at this stage, obviously, there is no need for any changes. Later in the year, there will be a further presentation to Council to examine what the council has achieved against this 4-year council plan. But at this stage, everything is on track. Thank you, Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Stevens. Moving on to item C3.1, planning decisions. Councillor McCubbin.
Thank you very much. Sorry. I'd like to move that Council note the report on recent planning permit trends and planning application determinations between the 1st of January and the 31st of January in 2020.
Seconder for that motion. Councillor Bye. Is that motion opposed? Not, the motion is carried. Councillor McCubbin.
No, I'm happy with that. Go through.
Moving on to item C5.1, quick response grants, and I think at this, so 5.1, quick response grants, and I think Councillor McCubbin, you're about to take your leave.
Yeah, I have a conflict of duty in regard to this after 78B of the Act, and that is that I'm a treasurer of an organisation which is listed under that requirement, so I shall leave the room.
Thanks very much. So item C5.1, quick response grants. Councillor Stevens.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I'm glad Councillor McCubbin had to leave the room. I had to find the right spot then. That snuck up on me. I'm happy to move that Council note the information regarding applications received under the quick response grant schemes for the period November 2019 to February 2020 as at attachment A.
Second of that motion. Councillor Ripper. Is that motion opposed? If not, the motion is carried. Councillor Stevens.
Yes, well, of course, the quick response grant scheme is very important, Mr Mayor, for our community because, just to quickly recap, Council will be aware that this scheme enables community organisations at any time during the year to apply for amounts up to $2,000, and I think individuals up to $500 to take part in various activities. And as you can see, a wide range of community groups have applied for grants, and the grant process is pretty seamless actually, and enables the community to do a whole range of things for the benefit of people. So it's pretty important, and it's great to see what the community is doing with the money that we make available. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Stevens. And we'll just get Councillor McCubbin back in the room. Moving on to item C5.2, Cameron Sporting Complex Community of Management Minutes. Councillor Hole.
Thanks, Mayor. Just very briefly, the committee
Would you like to move the motion?
Oh, no, I thought you all read it.
It's unusual for me to actually be ahead of you. That's
I'd never get near the end of the session. The council received the minutes that I'm going to move. The council received the minutes from the Cameron Sporting Complex Committee of Management General Meeting held on the 19th of December 2019.
Second for that motion. That motion, Councillor Ripper, I think was that motion opposed. If not, the motion is carried. You were just checking to see whether I was awake, Councillor Hole. Councillor Hole.
You're exactly right. I saw how hard it was to get a second up. Thanks, Mayor. Yeah, the committee is meeting monthly now rather than every second month because of the work schedules going on with the new development. Anybody that hasn't been out there to have a look, I give them the invitation to come and have a look around the place. It's amazing that nobody's going through it without having to park in various spots right away from the stadium. Usually when you can't park outside the door, people normally bring it to your attention. That hasn't happened. The committee has been working so well with the council, and the council officer designated to keep everybody moving, and also the contractors, as well as the consultants. And the latest measure that came out is that there was a little bit of a conjecture as to which was going to be the meeting room and visibility and the right to be able to see into the stadium. And that's all been resolved. It was resolved amicably. at the January meeting, and so it's all systems go, and hopefully we'll have the third stadium open in the not too far distant future, and then the big one can become the gymnastics centre, and we're on track to finish on time and on budget.
Excellent. Thanks, Councillor Hall. No urgent business, CEO?
None.
And we move on to further gallery and chat room, and if there's anyone wishes to speak to the gallery, or if there's no one wishing to speak to the gallery, then I'll dispense with the from the gallery. I'll dispense with the preamble. So on that basis, I think I'll dispense with the preamble, CEO. And
No chat room comments.
And no chat room comments. No confidential, and that leaves us to item G in closed session. Councillor Stevens.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I'm pleased to move that the meeting be closed to the public pursuant to Section 89(2) of the Local Government Act 1989 to consider a personnel matter.
Seconded by Councillor Rossetti. He's not opposed. If not, the motion is carried. We'll move into closed session.